may you always drink from the Nile. It's a common Egyptian blessing from the past. I don't think it's a blessing often repeated today, with 95% of the country's 104 million people living within 12 miles of the river. But it is the longest river on the African continent, flowing north from Lake Victoria in Tanzania to the Mediterranean Sea. Its waters created extraordinary civilizations dating back over 7,000 years, giving rise to kings and pharaohs who ruled for thousands of years and who built many temples and pyramids for future generations to remember them. Today, cotton, sugarcane, grains, and citrus line the Nile River Valley. You will see fishermen casting their nets in hopes of catching tilapia, a common fish in the Nile. But tourism drives much of the economy, with over 350 riverboats cruising the 130 miles between Luxor and the first cataract at Aswan. Each port of call has limited dock space, causing many boats to raft up 5 deep. Another interesting fact about the Nile is there are very few navigation aids. In fact, the only time we saw any was leading into the locks at Esna. So you better hope your captain knows the Nile and can read the river. Ours on the Viking Antares has over 60 years on the river, and that was a good thing. So long as the Nile River flows, so does life in Egypt. Planes and boats and buses. Oh my! They were the main forms of transportation we used. But in Egypt there are many forms of transportation being used today, as they did throughout history. Traffic in Cairo was a very unique experience. We saw very few traffic lights, no stop signs, and apparently, just because there are lines painted on the road, it doesn't define how many lanes of traffic there should be, 3, 4, or 5. Our bus driver in Cairo was absolutely amazingly talented. He drove right through Khan el-Khalili Market, the oldest market in Cairo. I thought it was amazing that we saw very few accidents of any kind, and I was so impressed with our bus driver, I gave him a $200 tip when we departed Cairo. A short boat ride across the Nile at 4 a.m. was the start of our hot air balloon ride over the Valley of Kings and Queens. They promptly loaded us into vans for the short drive to the launch site. When we departed the vans, we were greeted to the roar of propane burners filling the balloons. Each basket carried a maximum of 32 guests, a pilot and a co-pilot, and they packed us into the gondolas like we were a herd of cattle headed to the slaughterhouse. But the view is spectacular, spanning over the Valley of Kings and Queens. As we were nearing our landing site, Tom, a new travel friend of ours, threw 3 $1 bills out of the gondola to 3 boys riding on a moped. The boys literally jumped off the moped while it was still moving to chase after the bills floating in the air. And apparently, word spread quickly before we landed because other boys on donkeys came trotting at a fast pace to our landing site looking for more. Buggy rides seem unique to the town of Edfu. We queued up on the street waiting for the buggies that would take us on a short ride to the temple of Edfu, built in honor of Horus, the falcon god. We were told by our guides not to tip the drivers if they whipped their horses. Oops, a wheel fell off. But no problem. Other buggy jockeys just stopped, lifted up the buggy, put the wheel back on, and on with the show. The felucca captains are amazing sailors, and that's coming from an experienced sailor myself. Absolutely no motors, using a one-piece lantine sail, dealing with the river's current and traffic on the river kept them very busy. Our sail in the Nile was refreshingly cool after coming off the hot streets of Aswan. As we've all heard the phrase, when in Rome, do as Romans, well, when in Egypt, do as the Egyptians, and ride a camel. Though getting on and off them is quite a challenge, they sure do like to grunt a lot in the process. The ride was a little awkward, with holding the camera in one hand, and in my other hand the horn of the saddle, being jousted around at the same time. We can now check that mode of transportation off our list as been there, done that. The bazaars in Egypt were interesting. As you would expect, they were loaded with all types of traditional Egyptian garments, t-shirts, souvenirs of all types. There were hardware stores, food shops, things that we had no idea what the heck they were.
No, we have to stay out here. Oh, no, I can. It's okay. You try it out. Oh, I see. I see, like that. Like that.
Oh my God.
There we go. So, pick him?
Egyptian money. 200. 200 pounds.
Colorful displays of aromatic spices greet visitors in Aswan. These ingredients are available in vibrant hues ranging from rose, ochre, and terracotta to moss and even indigo. Not only are they visually stunning, the spices add deep, complex flavors to Egyptian cuisine for untold generations. I discovered my American palate didn't particularly agree with some of their spices, so I shied away from many of their traditional dishes. Of course, each town had a friendly tailor, an ironer for their galabea, an olive oil grinder with equipment that was over 100 years old.
I have no American money.
We visited a carpet weaving school that demonstrated several types of weaving and showed the exquisite art talent that goes into making Egyptian carpets. These hook rugs were absolutely beautiful, and now we have one gracing our own home. Falafel vendors were selling their deep-fried balls of ground chickpeas, hot and crunchy. And Egyptians love the ashbaladi, or as we have come to know it, pita bread. You can find bakeries throughout the towns and deliver any way they can. No need for packaging here. They just load them onto a tray and off you go to make your deliveries. Even if they do fall off. The strength and determination of Nubian women is remarkable. With $2.70 a day, the average Egyptian income, every moment of every day, they are left just trying to survive. We, who are fortunate enough to travel to places like Egypt, can share our compassion, our empathy, our gratitude to them for welcoming us into their world. Buy their trinkets, their handmade souvenirs. They are ridiculously inexpensive, many times $1 or less. All they are trying to do is survive in today's world. Welcome aboard. The Viking MS Ataris, a classic river ship, was our floating oasis on the Nile. She is a spacious, state-of-the-art vessel with a refined, understated ambience. The staterooms were roomy, well-appointed, with large opening windows that offered a wonderful view and cool fresh air. The sun deck and pool were a splendid place to watch the sights drift by, take photographs, and enjoy a cool, refreshing beverage. One evening was earmarked as Egyptian night and requested we wear Egyptian-themed attire for the evening. The evening started off with a cocktail party and fun entertainment, followed by a traditional Egyptian meal and dessert. We had a blast, and it appeared that everyone else did too. Coptic Cairo was a stronghold for Christianity in Egypt. It's the home to several ancient churches and religious sites like the St. Sergius and Bacchus Church, where it is believed that Joseph, Mary, and baby Jesus hid when they were fleeing Herod the Great. St. George's Church was built on the northern tower of the Roman Babylon fortress. The fortress was built around 30 BC and was built on cliffs protecting the canal that was being resurrected by Emperor Augustus to try to connect the Nile River to the Red Sea. Pharaoh Senuseret III attempted to build the original canal around 1850 BC, or so they think. The Hanging Church was built on the southern gate of the Babylon fortress, thus making it suspended, and hence the name.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
The temples and tombs were nothing short of magnificent. Everything you expected and more since we first saw pyramids as a child. I mean, how amazing is it to walk into a temple, a pyramid that was built thousands of years ago? Kind of mind-boggling to think that you are actually walking the same path as pharaohs did during their reign. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know, maybe you do too. Karnak, the largest temple ever built, was dedicated to 3 deities: Amun, king of the gods; Mut, wife of Amun and mother goddess of Egypt; and Munt, god of war, which makes sense since this was the southernmost border of the Old Kingdom. The temple was started by Senuseret I, but many other pharaohs added to it over its 1300-year period. Ram head sphinxes line the entrance to Karnak. The ram was sacred to the god Amun and is shown protecting the pharaoh between their legs. The great hypostyle hall, with 134 columns, is covered with inscriptions, attesting to the richness and vitality of Egyptian life. We saw several columns in the process of being restored. As we exited the eastern entrance to Karnak, where 2 obelisks once stood, we viewed the bas-relief remaining on the outside wall. The Temple of Amun-Ra was started around 2035 BC by Pharaoh Akhenaten when he moved the capital from Memphis in the Delta 440 miles upriver so he could better control his kingdom of Upper and Lower Egypt. The room of the divine birth with bas-relief depicts his birth from Amun and the queen. Ramses the Great ruled for 66 years at the height of Egyptian power, building several of the largest monuments in Egypt and adding onto the temple built by Akhenaten. Pharaoh Nectinebo I built the Avenue of the Sphinxes, a 3-kilometer walkway lined with over 600 sphinxes between the Temple of Amun-Ra and Karnak. The Valley of the Kings and Queens is located on the west bank of the Nile, directly opposite today's Luxor. There are over 63 known tombs from the 16th to the 12th centuries BC, and many more yet to be discovered. This is where, in 1922, Howard Carter discovered King Tut's tomb. Nefertari, the first and most beloved of Ramses the Great's 8 queens, is one of the best preserved tombs in the valley and is limited to only 150 guests per day. They only allow you in the tomb for 10 minutes and no videography allowed, to my disappointment, but it was some of the best preserved relief paintings that we saw in all of Egypt. UNESCO World Heritage Sites blanket the Nile River Valley. Among them, there are over 118 different pyramids dating back to around 2630 BC. Today, you can go into several of these pyramids through narrow, short, and somewhat steep corridors to the burial chambers, but don't try to climb on them. It's illegal, and you can face up to 3 years in an Egyptian prison, and I don't think that's how you want to extend your vacation. The Step Pyramid of King Djoser was built around 4,700 years ago at Saqqara. Designed by Imhotep, the pyramid symbolizes the stairway to heaven, permitting heavenly ascent of the king. Djoser's complex is considered one of the largest and most complete monuments in all of Egypt. The necropolis in Giza is home to the Great Pyramid built for Khufu and protected by the Sphinx. You can go inside the burial tomb there, but the lines are rather lengthy, and you can only get into the Sphinx by a special permit. The pyramid that crowns each of the Egyptian pyramids symbolizes where Ra perches on top of the pyramid. It is considered sacred and represents the king's connection to their god. The time we spent in Egypt was nothing short of amazing. To see in person the structures that mankind built thousands of years ago is pretty remarkable. We were glad for the opportunity, the hospitality shown towards us, and the knowledge we gained. If you ever get a chance, you should go and see the sights in person. There is nothing like it on Earth. When we booked our trip to Egypt, we knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime trip. Well before we left Tucson, I started listening to the History of Egypt podcast, which has 176 episodes as of today. I watched the programs on National Geographic Channel, I researched on the internet, I read travel books, I was looking for anything that had to do with ancient Egypt. I wanted to make sure I knew as much about Egypt as I could before arriving in Cairo. It was a bit overwhelming, to say the least. So the video you just watched, I can assure you it is 100% accurate. Or in the words of our amazing guide, Hanan El-Deeb, who has a PhD in Egyptology, is a working archaeologist and who has done digs in the valleys of the kings and queens, nobody really knows for sure.
Morocco and Sahara with overseas adventure travel. Great flights, smooth goods service from Tucson to Dallas to Madrid with an entertaining ride to our next gate.
Excuse us! Car coming through, behind you.
And on to Casablanca, where we were met by our taxi driver, which our hotel arranged. He delivered us safe and sound to Via Aurelia in Rabat. This was an amazing stay. The owner, Ayecha, greeted us. They were hosting a birthday party and she invited me to meet the girls. So delightful. That evening they prepared our first delicious traditional meal, pastilla tagine fruit. Ayecha and her staff welcomed us as family. We arrived a couple days early to adjust to the time and wandered around the local neighborhood, which included enjoying nos at one of the many local coffee shops. Trying the heavily advertised tacos, the main ingredient is French fries, served with a side of fries. Now our tour of Morocco really begins. Our trip leader Taha arrived with several from the pre-trip. The bus was spacious and we enjoyed a relaxing tour of Rabat. This was followed by a delicious welcome dinner with our 13 new travel buddies. Valentine's Day, and we are off to Fes. We got to hug cork trees, hold hands, and witness a beautiful confession of love. Once in Fes, it was quite a deal to get to our riad, a Moroccan home refurbished into a guest house. The difference between outside and inside the riad was shocking. We were thrilled not only with the lodging, but also to meet our delightful host and enjoy a delicious lunch. The day continued with learning and discovery at Art d'Argile.
I am very proud to tell you that about my country. I can say Morocco is the only Arab country where we always have cohabitation. Mohammed is one among the best ones we have here.
I even got a lesson. Several of us concluded the day with a Valentine's meal on the rooftop of a nearby Riyadh palace. You read that right. Camel burger. Yes, I ate some. The tour of Fes included the Medina, meaning very old city, which is always inside of walls. This is the royal palace. Touring the streets and alleys was quite the experience. The Jewish section is called Mela, and we received a Jewish blessing.
Okay, Baruch atah Hashem, Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim.
Yalla, yalla, and watch out.
Behind.
For all Moroccans, they have to come here at least once in their life for a wish. So that's the one, the street, one of the oldest streets existing.
Another learning and discovery at the oldest tannery in North Africa. We learned that goat skin is preferred and pigeon poop with water is used to soften skin. Only natural dyes are used. And yes, Fred bought a leather jacket for me. Our evening culminated with 3 local families hosting us for dinner. Cheers! Tea is referred to as Moroccan whiskey. Several of us joined an optional tour of one of the most well-preserved Roman cities in North Africa. Fun takes on individual experiences. During a long drive through the Middle and High Atlas mountain range, we got to discover Berber music. Meet Barbary macaque monkeys, ride ponies, as well as meeting a semi-nomadic family and tour their winter home. When the snow is gone, they move up the mountain. We spent the night in a lovely kasbah with great food and celebrated our anniversary. Continuing on to the Sahara was another learning and discovery about fossils. An introduction to camels, including tasting camel milk. Into 4x4s to trek through the desert to our camp. How to make tagine. What a yummy dinner. Hi. Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. I hope you're having a great day. Off on a great adventure.
That's awesome. What a fabulous camel ride. Now to meet a local farmer. Then learn to play drums. on to meet a nomad family. Taha shared that the traveling nomads have nothing in writing. Trust is oral, and 60% are illiterate. The family we met consisted of 3 generations. Their tent is handmade and waterproof.
So people are reluctant actually to go to hospital. So they try their best to survive without seeing a doctor.
Is this what they call dripping sand? Where to next? Warzazat.
Yeah, right.
Our time en route and in Ouarzazate was loaded with beautiful experiences. A very special moment was meeting Taha's parents, sisters, and niece. We stopped at a village market, a Berber school, and the inspiring Imik Women's Association, which means little by little, step by step. In Ouarzazate, we stayed in the luxurious Berber Palace, a famous place for movie stars and set crews, as this area is Morocco's Hollywood. Do I pass for Cleopatra? Numerous well-known movies have been filmed here, such as Casablanca, Cleopatra, The Gladiator, Lawrence of Arabia, Indiana Jones, and so much more. Our local guide was a very proud extra in several films. A highlight of traveling with OAT is a day in the life. Our host was a bricklayer in a village outside of Ouarzazate. We fed animals, made bread, rerouted water, harvested greens, made bricks, prepared food,
4 pounds per piece. Yes.
and played with the children.
Second hand.
So special. Our evening culminated with a birthday celebration. And on to Marrakesh with another enlightening learning and discovery on the way, a woman's cooperative focused on the making of argan oil. Marrakesh, what a place! Monkeys, snakes, vendors, and people galore. We carefully navigated our way through the maze of corridors and found Moroccan rugs. Yep, we bought one for our closet. Working our way through the fine dining of the square, sampling lots of great flavors, including sheep's head and snails. Okay, escargot sounds better. Experiencing a horse-drawn kaleche ride through modern Marrakesh, Our tour included Baha'i Palace, Le Jardin Secret, and much more. Being from the Sonoran Desert, Jardin Majorelle reminded me our trip is almost over. Then a huge treat, meeting Taha's wife and children. Well, it's here, our farewell dinner, trip review, and fun acknowledgments. Thank you for such an incredible trip. Shukran. Until next time.
In August of 2024, we visited Southern Africa. Our trip included Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe, 2 locations in Botswana, and some time in Cape Town, South Africa. This video is about one of the stops in Botswana, a watering hole in Mashatu Game Reserve in eastern Botswana. We flew into the Limpopo Valley Airfield, a small airport that was a couple of hours from the Mashatu Lodge where we were staying. The lodge had modern, comfortable rooms. In some parts of the world, what we refer to as a blind here in the US is referred to as a hide. The hide consisted of a pair of shipping containers sunk into the ground. Initially, elephants walked on top of the hide. To prevent that, logs were scattered across the top of the hide to discourage that behavior and possible collapse of the hide. Openings were cut just above the level of the ground. Each photographer had a station with a space on the table and with a beanbag on a swivel mount to provide support for their camera and long lens. The edge of the watering hole was just a few feet from the hide. The hide had plenty of room for the half-dozen photographers in our group. First, we'll explore the variety of birds that visited the watering hole. The gray go-away bird is found in moist, open woodlands, especially near surface water. They get their name from the call they make. Do you hear "go away" in their call? It may take a bit of imagination. The Cape glossy starling. Common bulbul. The golden-breasted bunting. One of the most colorful birds in Africa, the lilac-breasted roller. The Myers parrot is a multicolored bird. They're known to make good pets. The Namaqua dove. The Natal spurfowl. Swainson's spurfowl. The pearl-spotted owlet. It is one of the smallest owls in the world, only about 7 inches high. Southern cordon bleu. A troop of baboons visited the watering hole daily. Baboons are part of the Old World monkey genera. There are 6 recognized species of baboons. The species in this area is called the Chacama baboon. Here we see a photo of a mother with her infant. Grooming is a ritual practiced by baboons. It eliminates ticks and other insects in the baboon's fur. It can also be used to curry favor with higher-ranking members of the troop. The antelope family has numerous species. At the watering hole, we saw impalas and kudus. This is a male impala, females don't have horns, drinking from the watering hole. Here we see the entire herd gathering to drink. Another antelope species is the kudu. Kudus have distinctive white stripes on their sides. Giraffes are the tallest living terrestrial animal. Their long necks allow them to eat leaves that cannot be reached by other animals. There are only 7 vertebrae in a giraffe's neck, the same number as for a human. A giraffe's neck can weigh up to 600 pounds, not the same as a human. A giraffe's head cannot reach the ground while it is standing straight up. It must bend its knees or splay its legs. When a giraffe lifts its head after a drink, the water dripping from its mouth forms an S shape due to the way the neck muscles pull the neck into an upright position. There are 3 species of zebras: mountain zebra, plain zebra, and Grevy's zebra. Only plain zebras have stripes that meet in the underbelly. The other 2 species have a white underbelly. Zebras are known for their black and white pattern, but are there white stripes on black or black stripes on white? The skin underneath a zebra's fur is black. The white stripes are formed because some pigment-producing cells have been deactivated. Stripe patterns are unique to each individual. When the elephants arrived, the zebras scattered. Elephants are the largest living land animals. There are 3 species of elephants: the African bush elephant, the African forest elephant, and the Asian elephant. The ones at the watering hole were African bush elephants. Females tend to live in family groups headed by the oldest cow or matriarch. Males past puberty sometimes live alone and sometimes live in groups. Elephant ears contain lots of blood vessels to perform heat exchange for cooling. African bush elephants live in the hottest climate among the habitats of the 3 species and thus have the largest ears. Perhaps the trunk is what most sets elephants apart from other species. An elephant's trunk can contain up to 150,000 fascicles or muscle fibers. As a result, the trunk has great flexibility and strength. An elephant's trunk can lift up to 770 pounds. A trunk can suck up over 2 gallons of water at one time. The trunk also has an excellent sense of smell, possibly 4 times as great as a bloodhound. Here we see an elephant spraying mud over itself. Elephants cover themselves with mud for 3 reasons. First, as a natural sunscreen. Second, to provide some cooling in hot weather. And third, to provide protection against insects. If you are contemplating an African safari, I would encourage you to visit the Mashatu Game Reserve and arrange to visit the hide.